Good, very early morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Pamela getting on here real quick on her video vlog. I'm in my bathroom. I wanted to take a moment to talk about a couple of things here real quick. This has been a crazy week because we've had 2 snowstorms here in the last couple of weeks. In fact, my area was slammed with a big snowstorm last night. And we heard about Dick Van Dyke having his 100th birthday. Congratulations to him. And we should be happy for that, but we had a couple losses here over the last day or so. One was Selena Quintanilla's father, Abraham Quintanilla, passed away at 86. All I can say is, I hope he's back with his daughter and other family members that have passed in recent years. I send my love and support to the Quintanilla family. Hopefully they'll get through this, but I must ask you to give them the privacy they deserve. A.B. and Suzette need the privacy, and we should give it to them. It's after midnight here, so you'll have to forgive me for sounding tired. I am. I didn't realize it was after midnight, so you'll have to forgive me. But another thing I want to talk about tonight, Rob Reiner. A lot of people know him as Meathead on All in the Family. Michael Stivic, remember him? Who would always put up with Archie's insults and racism. But by the end of the series, when he and Gloria moved out to California, Archie proved that he did love the Meathead in spite of their differences. Well, the last couple of years, Rob Reiner has been a staunch adversary in the fight against Donald Trump and his bullshit policies. Well, I was getting ready to wind down for the night and get a refund from Fandango.com, their at-home service, for a film called Jack and the Beanstalk. But it wasn't the one I wanted. So, yeah. When I had got off Fandango and went to call the actual customer service to get the refund, I had it over on YouTube. And I was looking around for things to watch. And JLR Investigates was talking about the brutal murder of not just Rob Reiner, but his wife in their own home. And they're claiming that his son might be the prime suspect. I don't know for sure, so don't shoot me. I'm just here to tell you what I'm hearing. Again, Rob Reiner has been murdered in his own home sometime in the afternoon or evening of yesterday. So, yeah. From what I can hear here in the bathroom, JLR Investigates is still covering this case. I hope it isn't his son, but you never know. But the way things are in the world, it wouldn't surprise me. Because not only have we had to deal with Rob Reiner's death, and we heard about Dick Van Dyke's 100th birthday and the death of Abraham Quintanilla, I also heard about a shooting at Brown University. And I think they caught the shooter from Brown University. But, when I heard about Rob Reiner's passing, I knew I had to get on here and talk about it. A lot of people know him as the Meathead Michael Stivic. But I think of him as the biggest adversary in Donald Trump. You know, he could stand toe to toe with Donald Trump. He didn't take no crap. And unlike Archie Bunker, Rob Reiner cared about people and people, period. You know, I know Archie Bunker and Michael Stivic are fictional characters, but Rob Reiner exemplified what it meant to be a patriot, and as a man, as a total human being. And good people like him are disappearing fast. And the way he died, what would be now last night, the way he died is so cold. You know, it's not natural. You know, if a person at his age was going to pass, I would hope it would be in my sleep. You know, if I were to die at that age, I would hope it would be in my sleep. What happened to him is absolutely shocking and very, very, very sad. You know, the only thing I could say is that I hope that they didn't feel any pain. You know, that's the only thing I could think of right now. But Rob Reiner, one of the most famous actors from the 1970s, played Michael Stivic on All in the Family. He was tragically murdered at his home yesterday. And media outlets are covering it. They're trying to find out what happened. They think his son is the prime suspect, but we don't know. I don't even know. But this is a big one. You know, we've had a lot of weird things happen this year, you know. I can't keep up with it. I don't feel the need to get on here as much as I used to. But when I hear about Rob Reiner, the guy who stood up to Donald Trump and called him out on various things, I'm going to talk about it. Maybe tomorrow I'll get on and do a better video because I got things I have to do in the morning. But I wanted to get on here real quick and mention this because this is a big one. You know, Carol O'Connor and the cast of All in the Family were a part of many childhoods. Many people in the viewing community at that time would gather around the TV and watch All in the Family, where it touched on racism and bigotry and Archie's transformation from being a grumpy old Gus who didn't like Michael Stivic or people like Sammy Davis Jr. to a man that had a change of heart and showed that he was human like the rest of us. And that no matter what stage in life that you're in, most good people are capable of a good change. You know? People like Archie Bunker learned a hard lesson that racism doesn't belong. That you have to learn how to give and take. And Michael Stivic was a part of that. You know, of course, Archie would make some slangs, and I'm not going to mention them here to YouTube's guidelines, but even though Archie called him a meathead, you know, Mike Stivic was able to stand up to Archie's crap and break down the walls of racism and sexism. And by the end, you know, Archie was sad to see his little girl and her husband go off to California, and they take their grandson with them. So, yeah. Archie's cold heart changed during the course of that show. And Rob Reiner and the cast did an excellent job at it. I'm not a fan of the show, but I do know Mike Stivic for sure. I see a lot of the clips on YouTube. But Rob Reiner and his wife were killed yesterday at their home. As far as I know, it's still an ongoing investigation, so we'll have to wait and see on that. Well, keep him in your thoughts tonight as we all head for bed. I got to get some sleep. I got things I have to do in the morning. But maybe by tomorrow afternoon between 2 and 3 o'clock, I'll get on here and do another video and we'll talk about Rob Reiner. Big shock in Hollywood tonight. That, Rob Reiner is one of the last of the old schoolers. And the only other old schooler that I could think of right now that is still around is Henry Winkler. Yeah. I think it's rather tragic and sad to hear that Rob Reiner and his wife were murdered tonight. So, yeah. Keep an eye out on your local institutions about this case. I would talk more, but I'm tired and I need to get to bed. But I wanted to let you all know. So, if you have any memories, or if anybody out there that actually knows Rob Reiner, feel free to leave your memories. I'm not going to judge. But anybody who stands up against Donald Trump should be remembered. But I feel bad for the surviving family of Rob Reiner. And if his son is watching this, you are a possible suspect. If it's worth it, you need to turn yourself in. You need to turn yourself in. People need to know why he died. It isn't fair. It isn't natural, not to me. I mean, he was only in his, late 60s, late 70s? I think he was 78, and I think his wife was in her late 60s. But to go like that in a tragic murder, it's almost like what happened with Gene Hackman, Both husband and wife wind up dead, but the only difference is they think it was some type of contagion that was on the farm that killed the wife. And I think Gene Hackman, he was dealing with dementia and he subsequently died. I don't know what his cause of death was. But to hear about Rob Reiner being murdered in his own home is a sad, sad thing to hear. Nobody should die that horrifically. At his age, he should have been able to die peacefully, either in his sleep or doing something that he loved, That's a good way to go. But not at the hands of murder. Well, I'm going to get off for now, and I'll talk to you guys sometime tomorrow or the following days. Be safe, stay warm, look out for your fellow man. We need that now more than ever. Good night, everybody. Time for me to hit the silk. I'm going to bed. Night. I know I look like I am death warmed over. I am tired. Good night, everybody, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow or the next day.